We all love a dark mystery, the kind that makes your skin crawl and your mind race. But sometimes the most chilling stories aren't found in movies. They come from real life. Before Elsa Castillo shocked the Philippines, there was another woman whose brutal death set the precedent, the one they called the original Chop Chop Lady. Her name was Lucila Lalu. She was young, driven, and full of promise, until her life was violently torn apart. And here's the twist. Some people believe her killer may have also been linked to one of America's most infamous unsolved murders, the Black Dahlia. This is the story that shook the Philippines, and maybe even crossed continents. Let's dive right in. As someone who's always on the move with cameras, laptops, and gear, this setup has been a game changer. So let me show you what I use. The Grid backpack and Exter's travel pack vacuum kit. The Grid is built like a fortress for your tech. It opens 180 degrees like a suitcase, and the structure is so solid. My laptop and tablet feel totally protected. The internal compartments, super organized. There's a space for everything, like drives, chargers, even a padded sleeve for your power bank and tracker. The straps hold everything steady, even when you're on the go. It also has RFID protection, so your cards are safe from any unwanted scans. And I also love that I can attach extra pouches to the outside depending on what I need. Now pair that with the travel pack vacuum kit. It lets me compress clothes and save up to 60% more space. It's perfect for creators or travelers. No more bulky bags. Just use the portable pump, seal it up, and you're ready. And right now there's a spring sale going on, 30% off. But with my code, you can get up to 40% off. So click on the link below and use my code to get yours. Protect your gear, pack smarter, and travel lighter. It all began on a quiet Sunday, May 28, 1967. The Philippines woke up to horrifying headlines. 4 pieces of human legs were found, wrapped tightly in a newspaper dated May 14th, dumped in a garbage can on Malabon Street, Santa Cruz. The one who stumbled upon this gruesome discovery was a simple garbage collector named Pablo Bizar, working for the Department of Public Services. He was just going about his usual route, collecting trash, tossing bags into his truck like it was just another day. But then he noticed something odd, a foul odor, one that didn't smell like the usual rotting garbage. No, this was different, like something decomposing. Alarmed, Pablo flagged down some police officers who happened to be passing by. The officers decided to open the suspicious package right there on the spot. What they found was shocking. Inside were 4 pieces of human legs, cut cleanly at the knees and thighs, almost as if done by someone with surgical precision. The legs were fair-skinned, and it was immediately suspected that they belonged to a woman. Pablo's account, paired with the police examination, led them to believe that the legs had likely been frozen before being dumped. The toenails were carefully manicured, the polish still intact, as if the woman cared for them even up until her last days. What they did confirm was that the legs belonged to a young woman, likely in her 20s. The very next day, just as people were still reeling from the news about the severed legs, another shocking headline hit the papers. This time, it wasn't just parts, it was a body. A headless, legless torso was discovered on a vacant lot along Epifanio de los Santos Avenue, right past the bend of the Guadalupe Bridge in Makati. When investigators examined the body, the horrifying truth came out. The body and the legs found the day before, they were a perfect match. They belonged to the same woman. Detectives managed to lift fingerprints from her hands, and those fingerprints led them straight to a name recorded in the police clearance files, Lucila Lalu. But even with the name, the mystery only deepened. Rogelio Chantanghal, the MPD fingerprint expert, confirmed that the prints matched those of Lucila Lalu y Tolentino, a 29-year-old woman who who had once applied for a job as a restaurant waitress. The records gave investigators an address, Candaba, Pampanga, her hometown, and a city address listed as 1008 Camarines Street, Santa Cruz. So detectives wasted no time. They rushed to Camarines Street, only to find nothing. The address didn't even exist. It was like chasing a ghost. Meanwhile, back at the morgue, the body was closely examined. Lucila was described as fair-skinned, about 5'2", born on June 24, 1938 in Candaba. Investigators estimated she was likely killed sometime between Monday morning and 6 p.m. that same day. Oddly, there were no visible contusions on her torso, no blunt force injuries, but there were subtle signs that she had put up a fight. There were defensive wounds, small but telling. Another detail stood out. Lucila was 1 month pregnant at the time of her death. And then came a chilling realization. The way her body had been dismembered, clean cuts at the knee and hip joints, the head severed right at the base of the neck, this wasn't random or clumsy. This was someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Investigators believe the killer had anatomical knowledge, maybe even medical training. A butcher, a surgeon, someone skilled with knives. The precision was undeniable. Adding to the horror, when the legs were first discovered, her hands had been tied behind her back with an abaca rope. Whoever did this likely used a private vehicle to dump the body parts in separate, distant locations, as if to buy time or maybe to confuse investigators. The legs, still almost frozen when found, suggested they had been stored in a freezer before being discarded. Whoever did this wasn't just skilled, they had resources. Some even suspected the killer might have been someone wealthy. Lucila's case quickly became the talk of the entire country. No internet back then, no viral videos, just newspapers. Yet almost everyone knew her name. Everyone was gripped by the tragedy, by the mystery, and the growing fear that a dangerous killer was still out there. Desperate for answers, investigators began retracing Lucila's life, hoping to find the missing piece, her head, and the person responsible. What they uncovered was the story of a woman like many others. Born in 1938 in Candaba, Lucila eventually left her small village of Barrio Mapaniqui around 1961. Like many young women, she was chasing a better life in the big city. Manila promised opportunities, but also hid dangers. To work in the city, she needed police clearance, which she got without issue. She found a job as a waitress working at one of Manila's small-time night spots. The pay wasn't great, but it was enough for her to survive, sometimes even enough to send a little money back home to her family. Over time, Lucila made some friends, built a life, but still something felt missing. Loneliness lingered. Then she met a man, Vera, a patrolman. He was married, but despite that, Lucila entered into a common law relationship with him. From her relationship with patrolman Vera, Lucila gave birth to a son, Danilo. And despite the challenges of single motherhood, she kept pushing forward, still working as a waitress, still grinding, until eventually she saved enough to buy out the ownership of the Pagoda Soda Fountain on Rizal Avenue. A cocktail lounge and restaurant all rolled into one. The place was a hit. Business boomed, customers poured in, and Lucila didn't stop there. With the profits she earned, she opened yet another venture, a beauty parlor on Mahaliga Street in Santa Cruz. In every sense, Lucila became the woman she always dreamed of, a successful, independent business owner, a real girl boss of her time. At the height of her success, Lucila even took on a lover, a younger man whom she not only cared for, but also supported financially. She gave him a comfortable, even lavish lifestyle, paid for entirely by her hard-earned fortune. To outsiders, Lucila had it all: wealth, independence, and influence. But behind it all, no one could have predicted how tragically her story would end. Then came that fateful Sunday, May 28th, 1967, or maybe it was a Monday. Either way, sometime during those hours, someone ended Lucila's life in the most brutal way imaginable. They dismembered her, then scattered her remains across different parts of the city. With the case now public and the city buzzing, the police started digging deeper into Lucila's life. It wasn't long before suspicion fell on a familiar face. Her lover, a 19-year-old waiter named Florante Relos. His arrest made instant headlines. But Captain Peregrino Javier, head of the homicide division, wasn't convinced. The facts weren't lining up. So here is what did happen. Around 3 p.m., Relos was found drunk on the mezzanine of the Pagoda Soda fountain, just blocks from where Lucila's legs were discovered. He was so intoxicated that police had to pour warm water on him to wake him. Police allegedly took him to a secret location, hoping he would lead them to Lucila's missing head or the murder weapon, but nothing turned up. The theory was that Relos killed Lucila in a crime of passion, but he denied it, insisting he loved her and would never hurt her. His alibi was clear. He said he was drinking in Quezon City with friends Sergio and Segundo Guerremo during the key window between Sunday night and Monday morning. Both brothers and their youngest, Benito, confirmed it. Before midnight Sunday, the group visited a woman named Lina Verosa to ask about Lucila. Lina told them she was likely at her beauty parlor and gave them coins for fare. But instead of going there, they returned to their drinking spot. Around 3 a.m. Monday, they stopped by Relos' older brother, Artuto, who was a hospital chef, for food, then took Relos home to the love nest he shared with Lucila in Cubao. But then whispers started circulating. People began pointing fingers at someone closer to Lucila than anyone else, her partner, Patrolman Vera. And it wasn't just idle gossip. It turned out Vera was one of the officers who arrested Relos at the cocktail lounge that day. That fact alone got people talking. Some believed that Relos became the prime suspect, not because of any solid evidence, but because Vera had a personal motive. Vera reportedly learned about Lucila and Relos' relationship through a mutual acquaintance, Lina, who happened to be the one the trio had visited that night. And it's said that when Vera found out, jealousy took over. He allegedly went straight to Captain Javier, who then ordered Relos' immediate arrest. This was the seed of the passion-killing theory, the idea that Relos, a young lover, might have killed Lucila after she threatened to end things between them. A simple story, a tragic but clean motive. Only it wasn't adding up. Relos, after all, was just a regular young man, working as a waiter in Lucila's lounge. He wasn't some hardened criminal. A year before the incident, Lucila had started giving him special treatment, and while they tried to keep their relationship quiet, people eventually noticed. The gossip got so bad that Lucila even considered firing Relos to avoid stirring jealousy among her staff. But instead of letting him go, she did something else. She rented a small apartment, their private love nest, and some people believed that this bold move only fueled Vera's jealousy further, setting the stage for Relos to be easily framed. Even so, the so-called evidence against Relos couldn't quite stick. As these doubts grew louder, more people stepped forward to defend Relos. Witnesses came out backing his alibi, and finally, the police had no choice but to release him. Yet, even after walking free, Relos refused to leave the MPD station. He was terrified, saying outright he feared for his life. And then came another strange twist. An anonymous tip reached the investigators. Someone had seen 3 people dragging what looked like a woman's body in front of a shop, apparently waiting for a taxi. But when pressed for details, the witness revealed something crucial. This sighting happened before Lucila was last seen alive. In other words, this lead may have had nothing to do with Lucila at all. But just as things seemed to stall again, a shocking discovery emerged from the latest autopsy. Lucila was about 1 month pregnant at the time of her death. With that revelation, attention shifted. If she was pregnant, the next logical question was, who was the father? Digging deeper into her personal life, investigators uncovered that Lucila wasn't just involved with Relos and Vera. There were two more names: a dentistry student, a regular visitor to her beauty parlor, and an executive from a prestigious printing firm. Suddenly, the pool of suspects widened. 4 men, 4 potential motives. So the police went to work. They questioned all of them. Relos, as we know, was cleared thanks to multiple witnesses and a rock-solid alibi. There is little record of what became of the dentistry student's questioning. Suspicion briefly fell on the printing firm executive. After all, Lucila's body parts were wrapped in newspapers. It seemed like a possible connection. But like Relos, he had an alibi that held up. Which left only one: Vera. Vera, born in Tondo on April 25, 1925, was a veteran officer, having joined the MPD back in 1948. He had lived with Lucila for 7 years and was the father of their 6-year-old son, Danilo, who, after Lucila's death, went to live with her mother. When questioned, Vera claimed that he last saw Lucila on Monday, but hadn't noticed anything wrong. He said he only began looking for her on Tuesday, though due to work, he couldn't search thoroughly. According to him, he only learned of her death through the news on Wednesday morning when he read her identification report right there in the MPD office. It was also during this time that Lena, Lucila's friend and the cashier at the cocktail lounge, told Vera about Relos, about his relationship with Lucila, about how he had searched for her on Sunday night with the Guerrero brothers. This information directly led to Relos' arrest. But now the question was Vera playing detective, or was he covering something up? He certainly had a motive: jealousy. He had even physically confronted Relos before, punching him after witnessing an intimate moment between Relos and Lucila. To many, this wasn't just a lover's quarrel anymore. It was starting to sound like the motive behind Lucila's brutal end. Then on Tuesday, June 6, 1967, Captain Peregrino Javier made it official. He publicly announced that a murder complaint had been filed against none other than Aniano de Vera. The charge: the killing and mutilation of Lucila Lalu. Javier explained his reason plainly. Vera had the strongest motive: jealousy. And not only that, Vera, as an MPD officer, had the skills and experience to carry out such a brutal and calculated crime. But that wasn't all. Javier also revealed that during their investigation, it came to light that Vera had a violent history with Lucila. He had fired his service pistol twice inside the Pagoda Soda fountain, and once inside Lucila's beauty parlor. This wasn't just any jealous lover. This was a man who had already shown signs of rage. But Vera's defense was that he was playing mahjong from Sunday night to Monday morning with 3 others, an alibi Javier didn't buy. He kept pressing, hoping to catch Vera in a lie. But then came a major setback. Key evidence had been destroyed. Morgue personnel had lost or discarded the cardboard box that held Lucila's torso, the rope that bound her, the cardboard sheets around her legs, newspapers, and even a pair of underwear believed to be hers. Whether by accident or design, no one knew, but it weakened the case. Desperate for leads, the police even questioned Lucila's 21-year-old relative, Venancio Atencio, but got little help. Atencio admitted to having seen Lucila lying on the couch inside her beauty parlor earlier that night, but the door was locked. He couldn't get in. He wasn't sure if she was asleep or already dead. What he did notice, though, was strange. Lucila's skirt was pulled above her knee. When asked about their last interaction, Atencio mentioned they had dinner together around 6:30 p.m. that Sunday. Despite weeks of investigating, police were no closer to solving the case. They had no killer, no head, and the public, they were losing faith. After all, the killer seemed too clever, almost as if they knew exactly how to leave no trail behind. Just when the case seemed to be going cold, a twist. On June 15th, a soft-spoken man named Jose Luis Santillano walked into a police station with a letter. He was 28, a dental student, son of a retired colonel, married with 5 kids. Under questioning, he broke down and confessed he had killed Lucila Lalu. According to him, it happened the night of May 28th. He was celebrating his birthday in the room above Lucila's beauty parlor. Vera, Lucila, and others were there. Later, as the party ended, Santiano claimed Lucila came into his room, began undressing, and threatened to cause a scandal. Panicking, he tried to cover her mouth and accidentally strangled her. Instead of getting help, he dismembered her body. He said he dumped her legs in a trash bin before midnight, then returned to remove her head and hide it under his bed. The next morning, he took the head by train and bus, then threw it into the grass near Scout Albano. After that, he went home, bought pork, cooked, napped beside the torso still in his room, saw a movie, and even shared a cab with Vera and Lucila's brother later that day, with her torso in the trunk. It sounded like a full confession. The case, it seemed, was closed. But then another twist. At the press conference, Santiano suddenly changed his story. He now claimed 2 men had strangled Lucila in another room. A third man held him at gunpoint, stopping him from helping. The next morning, a 4th man planted blood in his room to frame him. Santiano begged for police protection, saying he feared for his life, and claimed he could identify at least 2 of the men involved. And just like that, chaos returned. Was Santiano truly Lucila's killer, or just a terrified man caught in a deadly setup? According to his version of events, he arrived at Lucila's beauty parlor around 11:30 p.m. and went upstairs to clean up. Realizing he had forgotten to lock the front door, he started heading down when he saw something terrifying: 3 men dragging Lucila. Before he could react, a 4th man appeared and shoved a gun to his head, forcing him back upstairs. Santiano said he was made to sit silently on his bed as the gunmen watched him, while faint gasps, possibly Lucila's, echoed through the building. Then he was led into Lucila's room, where he found her dead. When asked to describe the assailants, all he could give was a vague sketch of the gunman. Dark complexion, around 5'6", average build, in his 30s or 40s, wearing dark glasses. But police didn't believe this revised tale. They stuck with his original confession, claiming it was more consistent, and even said they heard him whisper to himself, "I did it. I finally did it." So why confess at all if he didn't do it? Was it fear, guilt, or something else? Regardless, Santiano remained the prime suspect. Police found a dull knife in his room and a blood-stained hammer with hair, allegedly Lucila's, on the ledge outside his house. But that wasn't enough. The evidence didn't hold up in court. Santiano was released and never served time. And the case faded until 2010, when the most unexpected twist of all surfaced. Steve Hodel, a retired LAPD detective and the son of the infamous Black Dahlia suspect, Dr. George Hodel, claimed that his father was the real killer of Lucila Lalu. If you don't recognize the name, George Hodel was the prime suspect in one of America's most chilling unsolved murders, the Black Dahlia case, the brutal mutilation of Elizabeth Short. Steve had spent years investigating his own father after finding disturbing photos and evidence linking George to the Black Dahlia. But Steve believed Lucila Lalu was one of his father's victims too. Why? Because George Hodel had quietly relocated to the Philippines around 1967, right around the time the heat from the Black Dahlia case and other murders in the US started catching up to him. He was practically hiding, living less than half a mile away from Lucila's beauty parlor. Steve also pointed out chilling similarities. Lucila's body was surgically bisected, just like Elizabeth Short's. The cuts, clean, anatomical, almost clinical, far beyond the abilities of someone like Santiano. And then there was the dump site. Lucila's remains were left near a street named Zodiac, eerily significant considering George Hodel was later suspected by some to have been involved in the Zodiac killings back in California. Steve compiled all this in his personal investigation and even published it online for the world to see. Still, despite the alarming connections, no formal charges were ever brought against Dr. Hodel. And just like that, the case drifted back into darkness, unfinished, unresolved. So many questions remain unanswered. Why did Santiano confess if he wasn't the killer? Who were the mysterious men he mentioned? What was their connection, if any, to George Hodel? Was this really another of Dr. Hodel's crimes, crossing oceans and borders? Or was Santiano just the right suspect all along? Honestly, maybe only God knows what really happened that night. And so, even after all these years, the mystery of Lucila Lalu's death still lingers. What's even more chilling is this isn't the last time the Philippines would hear of a chop chop lady. There were more, each case darker, stranger, and more mysterious than the last. But that is a story for another day. If you have theories, or if you caught something others might have missed, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them down in the comments. That is all for today. Thanks for watching.